Not being hired for being white? What is this?
The Joe Rogan Experience.
And most companies have DEI scores, and most companies have all these different requirements, and they're openly allowed to discriminate against especially heterosexual white men.
I may know one or two things about that.
Yeah. There was a thing that Elon tweeted, I think today or yesterday, in response to one of these things at Disney, where one of the guys at Disney like openly said, I would never hire a straight white man. Like, what?
I have that on tape. You know, I have a lawsuit.
Well, that's why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah. I mean,
so you and I talked
who's he
about it in
suing?
the green room. And tell your story. Like, tell what happened.
What was going on?
How this shit fest.
Yeah. It's quite a long story. I mean, when I started comedy I've been doing it 20 years. So I've been on TV shows, guest stars, co-stars. You never really heard, that's too many white guys, or, it's getting a little too white. And then I remember, like, at comedy clubs, you just start to hear people say, there's too many white guys, too many fucking white guys. And then it became quite popular to just start to say, there's too many of you guys. So what do? We got to get rid of them. The first time it happened to me, I was invited to do a podcast. So a woman, she was a lesbian. She wanted me to come on and tell the story of being raised by gay men. She goes, I think this will be good to bridge our two fan bases so people can hear it from a straight guy's point of view of what it's like to kind of grow up around, I grew up in gay bars and piano bars and drag.
I think it's such biased bullshit. I don't think it is. I think it's 100% true. Of course this is happening because white people did it to black people back in the day. They still probably try to do it to black people whenever they can. They probably do it to Mexicans as well. They do it to Asians. They probably do it to Indians. Indians probably do it to black people. Black people probably do it to Asians. Like, everybody is going to do this. But like, it's really not. Is it really crazy to imagine that people are racist? But is it really a shock? Yeah, like it's annoying. Yeah, there it is. So what's your point? The point is that what he's saying is probably true, and it's probably happening because I've seen this stuff happen. I've seen people say stuff like this for sure. I think we all have, especially on social media. So to imagine this has never happened in real life, actually, it's only a joke. That's crazy. Everyone after Asians? Well, I mean, everybody is going to, like, what I'm saying is that people are bigoted in different ways, right? There's no, like, one group that's, like, I'm not trying to say one group is getting it worse than other. I'm just saying that that's what happens.
Shows, and I'm kind of the long-term study for what it does to you.
Yeah.
It fucks you up. I started to think maybe I'm gay. Maybe I'm, I tried in college, actually. I was going home to visit my family. I tried kissing a guy just because I felt like I needed to fit in.
Whoa.
This shit really.
How'd that go?
He was like, get the fuck away from me. I remember I was in the car and just going like, fuck, maybe I'm gay. My dad's gay. I got a gay brother. One of my dad's brothers is gay. I think my grandfather. It's, shit's genetic.
Yeah,
it's
for
genetic.
Sure.
And I lean in and goes, get the fuck away.
I never thought that I was gay, but I told my mom that I did because I looked at porn and she caught me. And then I told her that the only reason I looked at it was because everybody was bullying me in school, calling me gay. And it turned her from being mad at me to feeling sorry for me. But no, I never thought I was gay.
Away from me because I just wanted to fit in. I wanted something to talk
genetics?
about.
No, but like you got to remember, like most people don't know all the context of this, right? Especially growing up, right?
Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
I wanted to be the gay,
Yeah.
It's so
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure. This girl
interesting
invited me on
strategy.
to talk
Hey,
about this, and
the thing is that like some of my best moments like that come from absolute desperation because you are trying to fucking hold on no matter what. I gotta figure out something that's gonna work here.
a friend. She texts me.
Yes, a Hail Mary,
goes,
yeah.
I think this was after the George Floyd thing, maybe. And she goes, I can't have a straight white guy on anymore. And I remember just going like, what the fuck? You can't have me on just because my skin color?
What changed?
It was during the BLM stuff. That stuff really ramped up. It became kind of, I think, celebratory to go, fuck white people, fucking white women, white, you know.
I think that's true, and I think that did happen. If I go back and I think about what it was like during like 2020, yeah, that 100% was true. It totally dialed up. Like, I think that at that point it dialed up like anti-white racism, which I think now has dialed up anti-other groups racism. Like, I see more racism against black people now in the last 1 year than I had seen in the last 5 years previous to that.
Right.
I think it became normalized.
Yeah.
Way too any amount of too much, but it became celebrated in a way. And so that happened, and then it happened in another podcast. And then I had an acting agent who, whenever I would do stand, I used to host Mark Norman's show, Hot Soup, and all the agents would come, and every couple months, someone would go, "Why aren't you on SNL? We got to get you in Hollywood." Why aren't you? And I'd go, "Well, sure, sign me, send me. You need auditions."
Yeah.
And so this guy saw him, and he brought me in. It was the biggest agency at the time, Abrams, it was called.
Yeah, this is what happens. Somebody says it's pattern recognition. Any type of pattern recognition that you have with people, of course, humans are wired to have pattern recognition, but let's assume that that person is right and that pattern recognition is a good thing and it justifies racism. I think that you can use that same line of argumentation to have other types of ways to oppress men as well. Because there is a massive difference in violence, like way, way more than any racial difference by like a number of fucking degrees of like between men and women. Like men commit how many of the fucking like brutal murders? Men commit how many of these like things? It's like a 10x, right? So like unless you're okay with women thinking that all men are trash and then men being treated as if they are preemptively guilty because they're part of a group, then I don't want to hear about how pattern recognition is a good thing. Because pattern recognition is fundamentally dehumanizing. So is stereotyping. You're taking a person, you're removing their personhood, and you're considering them now just a part of a group. Literally dehumanizing. It's a bad idea. Everybody is different.
And I'm waiting around going, what's going on? No auditions? Is SNL coming to check me out? And he emails and he goes, it's too tough out there for white guys. He kind of was like, we're done here. The next day, fires me, removes me. Right? Well,
That's
the next
crazy.
Day. It was soon after, removed me from the roster. I got an email.
And I think what we're seeing now, and like you see, like how many of you guys, you're seeing way more open racism by white people against other groups of people. Because like I would say this is like, I would say it 5x'd or 10x'd in like the last year or 2 years. And I think it's going to keep getting worse. It's always been that way. Yeah, but now people are speaking up about it. It radicalized everybody. Yeah, because I think this stuff radicalized white people for sure. And like, it's definitely like a vicious cycle where like, you know, obviously things pre-civil rights radicalize minorities, and then they're trying to do this, which radicalizes white people, which then radicalizes minorities more. And then like, you know, it goes back and forth, right? It is a vicious cycle.
Some more time went by, and then another manager scouted me, brought me in. It's called AGI Entertainment, I think. And he goes, dude, you're a killer. He goes, you got an acting resume? He goes, we're going to get you on Curb Your Enthusiasm, you know. And I was like, okay, maybe this is finally somebody who's got the balls to fight this shit. Months go by. He calls me, and he goes, we hit a snag. He said, we can't have any more white guys, or we're not hiring white guys. We're not representing white guys. And I just was like, what the fuck is going on? How could you say that? Yep. And I go, is it company policy? And he goes, yeah. So halfway through the conversation, I take my phone out, because this happened so many times. I was losing my fucking mind. My therapist goes, dude, you got to start recording this.
Yeah.
You have to.
That's the thing is like, I'm, you know, I hear something like this, right? I'm the kind of guy, you know, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Citation needed. Let's see where the evidence for this is.
To record this stuff, because it was happening every month. I got a commercial campaign.
Somebody says this is how minorities have felt for a long time. It sucks. I mean, I feel like if somebody gets called back and they get told explicitly that we're not hiring you because you're a minority, I think that they would, like everybody would agree that that's a bad thing and nobody would support it. yeah, then you should sue them. Like if that happens to you, or you think that it's happening to you, then you should sue them because it's illegal and it's bad.
They go, "You've been replaced with a black woman." He goes, "You're the guy for the job."
Yeah.
It was like a hosting thing where you got to do impressions. I was perfect for it. They replaced me, so I started, being prepared, and I recorded it, and I got it on tape, and I just.
What did you get on tape? What did he say?
I got him literally saying, "We will not represent white men, and it's company policy." He said it in plain. It's not. It couldn't be any more clear.
Wow.
He said, "We cannot work with you just because your skin color."
Then play it. He's not going to play it now. If you're playing Magic the Gathering, do you want to show somebody else your cards before you play them, even if you know you're going to win? No, you don't, because you don't know what's going to happen. So no, like that's this is evidence. He has a court case with him. He's not going to play it in a fucking podcast. Why would he do that?
And where were you when you recorded this? Were you in New York?
Yeah, I was in New York, so you're allowed to do it.
that in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't even know that.
Do you have to tell
Play in a
them?
court?
that
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
recording? No?
No.
Wow.
No, I was sitting at my pod. I did like a little, because I couldn't work because of the vaccine stuff, so I was just locked in my room for 2 years making Instagram videos. I mean, I went from 0 to over a million followers just from. I was doing Fauci every day, doing cameos, going on the radio as
Good for
Fauci.
Wow.
And it was just bizarre. But it fucked me up because it's so confusing to have someone go, "You are the man for the job." I had a great resume. I mean, I was being considered for big Hollywood roles.
Yeah.
I was brought in for Sneaky Pete, Giovanni Ribisi. I was up for that role, and making my own films. It fucked me up. I got really depressed. I lost my mind.
And so when you recorded this on tape, what happened after you recorded it on tape?
After that, I was too afraid because when I would tell people about this.
Well, now it's Cope. He's an anti-vax retard. Well, let's say he is an anti-vax retard. Then why wouldn't they just say that? Because wouldn't that just be a better idea, right? Because like that's legal. Like why would they say that? If that's the real reason, then why wouldn't they tell him that? So it's like your logic is that they're actually firing him for a reason that's not bad. So because of that, they don't want to tell him the not bad reason. So instead they tell a reason that's illegal. I don't see the thinking here. I'm not seeing any thinking.
They would go, "Well, whatever. White guys have had it good." And I'm going, "I just fucking got here."
But isn't that one of the things that someone said to you? Like, white guys have had a good run?
Oh, people say it to me all the time.
But wasn't that one of the things that one of the agents had said to you?
I mean, I don't know if an agent said that, but
you were telling me this.
I think this is something that a lot of people do who feel like they're in a position that is non-advantageous, right? They feel like they are in a victim position. I think that women do this to men, and I think also men do this to women whenever bad things happen to women that are related to, like, the sexual marketplace, basically. So like if something bad happens to a girl, they say, "Oh, well, men have had to deal with rejection or this stuff all the time, and so like now it's good that it's happening to you." And like same with like poor people being happy whenever something bad happens to rich people. It's very, very common. And if you look at it through every vector, it's pretty much the same every single time. Yeah, it's cultural revenge, right? And like it's bad every single time. By the way, it's 100% bad. It's completely unjustifiable. It's just vengeful and negative, right? But it does happen in every vector. Excuse me. And race is only one of them. It's called punching up. Yeah, exactly.
Someone said it to you.
Comedy. Yeah,
my perspective, if you're punching
clubs,
somebody, you're wrong.
Not necessarily clubs, but like the
Unless they hit you
independent run
first.
shows, there would be no.
Then
there
it's
would
fine.
be like no white people allowed shows.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was at a club and I did a spot. Guy goes, "You going on the next show?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I didn't know you were in the LGBT plus 2RQR community." And I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, it's only no straight people allowed." And I was like, "What the fuck? What the fuck is going on?" And so I after that I waited a while. I talked to my therapist. I just didn't know what to do because I didn't want
It's crazy.
that to
It is crazy.
become
It's weird.
a force of its own. I wanted to have my
it's really
talent
bad.
lead the way, which it had always been doing. And it's tough to have people call you, say you're just being.
Somebody says we're going backwards in society. I think that you're right. I think what's happening right now is that I think this especially got it got multiplied during COVID, is that you have these weird fucks that nobody likes that have taken over positions of decision making and are using their weird fuck logic and their weird fuck values, and they're making society worse. Whenever I hear the people talk about, the people that he's referring to, the racist people, right? Whether it's some racist white person or a black person or anything like that. If you look at pictures of them on Twitter, they look like disgusting freaks. They do. There's always weird stuff they have on their face. They have all kinds of tattoos everywhere. It looks like they don't shower. They look worse than I do. And every single fucking time, they look like freaks. And so whenever I see this, I see these people and I think to myself, and I'm like, oh my God, the inmates have taken over the asylum. That's what's really happening, is that you have these people that are absolute fucking weirdos. These are people that should be in a mental institution, but the society has convinced themselves that this person's mental delusions are actually virtue. And that's how we've gotten where we are. Of course, units are, yeah. So you're a high bar or a low bar to compare? I mean, I look like an animal, right? I mean, let's be honest. So, yeah.
A victim or whatever. And it's yeah, sometimes you're a victim.
Dehumanizing? Oh, am I dehumanizing them? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, pretty much. I think they're shitty people. I think they're shitty, obnoxious people, and I don't think they should be in any position of power, and half of them should be locked up in a mental institution. That's what I think. Yeah, no, that's my opinion. Absolutely. They're ruining society for everybody. Making it worse for literally everyone.
And you have to fight it to heal from it and to move on from it. And so I thought, if I don't fight this, I'm going to kill myself. Because it was it's so humiliating to have someone go, your skin color is it's just not the time for it. And so I just thought, I'm going to go for it. And I just put it on Instagram. I said, hey, I just got turned down for being white. Any attorneys out there? And one guy reached out and goes, I'm a discrimination attorney. He goes, this is one of the most clear acts of discrimination I've ever seen. He said, it's so clear cut. And
well, let's
so
see
that
what
was
happens.
A couple years ago.
Yeah,
so
I want to. Yeah, okay, it took 2 years. Now
These
what?
Things take a long time. But
and so, what are you're suing for discrimination? Is that what you're suing for?
Yeah.
This is not common behavior. These people are in the dozens. So you're right. These people are an extreme minority. But what I think that extreme minority does is, because that extreme minority of people is not being held accountable by the rest of the culture, that extreme minority causes other people to become extreme, reactively, right? So it's now this person who's a very bad actor is given no accountability for their bad actions. Well, now I'm extreme too, because, hey, if the world's a circus, I might as well be a clown. So that's what happens. And that's why it's important to be fair, right? Is if you're not fair with people, then everything falls apart. Well, now let's be real. This is a minuscule problem. I think that if it was happening to you, or I guarantee you that there are things that other people would consider being a minuscule problem. And in a lot of ways, it is. You're right. There are things like homelessness that are a much bigger issue. Things like, for example, sending millions of dollars to Israel. I think that's a really, really big issue. Wasting money on a lot of things. Very, very big issue. Lobbying in Congress. Very big issue. So everybody wants to say that it's minuscule, which is that can be true, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth being fair about it. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you shouldn't care about it. It doesn't matter. Racial discrimination is a minuscule problem. We told chatter. Well, I'm saying, that doesn't matter, what they're going to think. You only have a single person experiencing this? Are you saying, nobody else has experienced this before? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably it. Not sure how I feel about others being accountable to hold extremists accountable. It makes me think of the douchebag toxic gamers, whereas I'm just trying to have fun. So this is what the difference is. It's that whenever a person, and we saw this on Twitch, for example, there was that one guy who was calling to kill CatDany. There was that girl that was talking about putting a bounty on Mark Kern's head. And people were telling me it was about me. Let's be real, right? those people, if they were doing it to a liberal person and they were conservative, I'm going to be honest, I think that there's a 99% chance that they would be off the fucking platform. That's what I'm talking about, right? Like Frogan saying cracker take. Imagine if I said the opposite. I'd be gone. And so that's an example, right? That's a direct example. And so it's not about us holding them accountable. We can't hold anybody accountable. It's the fact that the rules are not being applied evenly. That's what's wrong. All I think most people want is for the rules to just be applied evenly. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Yeah, Twitch employees wanting out. Yeah, I don't know about that, right? But that's the way that I feel about it. Equal application of the law and rules. Yes, exactly. And if you have rules for some people and not other people, they're not rules, they're weapons. That's the way it works. It's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, every race is protected under this.
Do not conflate them as equal words. Would you like to... Do you want to engage in a thought exercise? Do you want to do that? We can do that if you choose to do that. Sure. How do you think that Twitch would respond if I said something about how black people were monkeys? What do you think they would do? Pretty simple, right? It's not the same circumstance, correct? Explain the difference. Bro, it's completely different from calling somebody a cracker. I don't really think so. I think that, like, fundamentally, whenever you're using a word in order to be a racial slur, like, so there's a lot of words that are not really racial slurs, but they can be used as racial slurs. So, like, for example, seeing monkeys at a zoo isn't a racial slur, but if you're using it against a minority group, it is. Eating crackers at a restaurant isn't a racial slur, but if you're talking about white people, it is. It's very simple. Like, it's common. Like, what I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. This is obviously. You can't move the goalpost. The words simply aren't of the same severity due to their history of use. So you think that somebody should be allowed to say racial slurs and make negative racial comments about any group of people? Do you think that there is a singular group of people that it should be acceptable to say racial slurs to? I'm not saying one is okay, but they hold different levels of severity. I think that it's obvious that the N-word has a different level of severity because we're calling it the N-word, right? Whereas we're using the other words. What would the severity matter? So, like, but you agree that they're all bad. I'm not saying one's okay. So you're saying it's bad, right? And I'm not saying the N-word. I didn't say that. It's the intention behind it is racist, right? So, like, for example, if I come up with a way to be racist that's not historical, would it be okay? I don't live in definites. Every scenario should be handled differently. E.g., if you're a member of said minority, you have more leeway. Well, see, this is a problem, and that's all I'm saying. Well, what I'm saying is that I think that's racism. I think when you give somebody the ability to, just a second, it would be more okay than the N-word. Let me untime you out. Yeah, so that to me is racism. So whenever you give a person more freedom, or when you give a person, like, more leeway, whenever a person enjoys more rights or more privileges because of their race, that's racism. And that's more or less. So if you give somebody something or you take it away, you are behaving as a racist. That is racist. That's the way that's the definition of the word. And it is systematic racism too. No, it's because N-word is an automatic timeout. We didn't mean the timeout. It's an auto mod. So yeah, I think the idea that if you have a if you say something that's bad, but you're a minority, it's more okay. That's unironic systematic racism. It's not even a question. And that's the reason why a lot of people are angry. I think that's why you're seeing so much more racism now. That's why you go on Twitter and there's so much racism, because any normal, reasonable person can hear that and think, what the fuck? You're doing the same thing. You're doing the exact same thing. This is obviously a very bad thing. And like this is being put out as if it's okay. And of course, that's why people are furious. And I think they're right to be furious. I think it's ridiculous. I disagree as well. Historical context is being ignored. What would the historical context have to do with it? I'm confused. So you're saying that you can only be racist, like racism is okay if you're doing it to people and it's not historical? That's crazy. You know that's not true. That's obviously not true. You tried to compare them, did you not? Of course. But I compared the nature of the word. Like there are, fair enough, a slight difference in that regard to get your perspective is, and no, I said part of the minority, not that minorities can be racist of anyone. That makes it even worse. That makes it even worse. Listen, here's the thing. It's very simple. Whenever one person enjoys a privilege because of their race, it's racism. Whenever somebody does not enjoy a privilege because of their race, it's also racism. This is categorical. It's the definition of it. There's no fine print here. You can talk about it being on a shade of gray, but none of those shades of gray are good. And they should all be treated the same. I'm sorry, but if you say racial slurs about somebody on the website, and it says on the website that it's against the rules, then you should get banned. It's that simple. And if you're using it in a way that's racist, like, for example, there are a lot of terms that people use for black people to mask racism, like dog whistles, right? Young scholar, jogger, things like that. I go on 4chan. I know what the words are. If I'm using those words or somebody else is using those words, I want to see them banned on Twitch because that's what's against the rules. And if you don't have the rules, then everything is chaos. Honestly, I think why people know enough to be about being offended by racism, all minorities are not. That's crazy racism. That's insane. No, I'm not even going to read that all the way. That's nuts. And so, yeah. What the fuck is jogger? A guy getting shot in his own neighborhood a few years ago? I'm just saying, like, I don't know, like, really where it came from exactly. I think that might have been it. But the point is that this is it's definitional, right? Saying cracker is punching up while saying anti-black slurs is punching down. That's the difference. Well, I don't know, but last time I checked, assault is still against the law, depending on if you're punching up or down. So, like, it's not that punching down or punching up is any better than each other. I think the only people that think that punching up is okay are the people that are punching up. And I think that if other people punched up at them, they'd be looking for an excuse about why it's not okay. You're still getting punched. What a dumb philosophy. Do you remember what I said about how most people's worldview is completely self-referential? And they actually don't have any real values other than values that already just basically enable their current beliefs? This is another example of that. What a surprise that you, in this position of being down, it's always okay for you to punch up, but somehow the people that are below you, it's still not okay for them to punch you, right? So people craft this worldview that has no principles, no North Star, no actual value or ethics to it, and they're just looking to backwards reverse engineer a worldview that enables their own bad behavior. And I think that's a great example of it. Punching up is a great example. Do you think that me making fun of rich people is as bad as making fun of poor people for a poor person for being poor? Of course not. Yeah, it is. It is just as bad. Of course it is, because the action is the same. The intent is the same. I don't like this idea that a bad actor is okay because they're doing it towards somebody who's bad. They're still a bad actor. And also, what gives you the right to do that? What happens if they do that to you? It's a ridiculous idea. And again, if people, it's the same as like, oh, I can steal from this company because it's a big company, right? Like, how many of you guys have heard like this argumentation, like, oh, well, I can steal from Walmart because Walmart's a really big company, or like I can steal from CVS. Why is CVS complaining, about people stealing? Just let them steal, right? Well, I guarantee you that if somebody was stealing from them that had less money than them, then they would be calling the police and crying and complaining about it. It's, again, completely self-referential logic. There's no principle to this at all. It's totally indulgent, just completely immoral, bad behavior that is totally created to make themselves feel better and to justify their own bad behavior. Self-centered, yes. Self-centered, narcissistic behavior.
Civil rights laws. There's no...
Isn't that crazy, though, that they would think they're so encaptured by this fucking mind virus that they would think it's okay to be racist to white people?
Not only okay, but...
Well, you just heard a few of them in chat, right? You dumb bastard, we punch up because we're morally justified and you can't tell us off? Well, I just did, right? I said that you're a stupid moron, and if you do that to me, I'm absolutely going to punch down at you, and I'm going to enjoy it. I will. And I'm not sorry. So you can do it all you want and think that you have a moral justification. But if you do it to me, like I've done this to many people before, haven't I? Where somebody has said something mean to me and then I put them on blast on a YouTube video and then they started crying about harassment. Well, you get what you fucking deserve. Too bad. Don't punch up. If you don't want to be punched back, don't punch up. What justification? Yeah, that's the way it is. So yeah, no, you can justify your behavior however you want. That's fine, but I'm just telling you what's going to happen if you do that. Fuck around and find out.
Like celebratory.
Yeah.
You know?
Wild.
Yeah, and I don't let people fucking do that to me. People think I'm just this nice little... I'm a fucking animal. When you grow up in a crazy environment and you survive it, man, it's like, fucking come at me. And I just said, it's a hill I'll die on. I don't care. I was like, this is war. We are in a full-blown culture war. And I would give up everything for it. Because I also owe it to, people that can't fight for themselves. I had this 10-year period where this shit wasn't going on. I built up my acting chops, my comedy chops, with nobody saying, you can't do that, you can't say that. And so I had this kind of, this energy. I go, I have to, no one's going to do it for you, I saw Jordan Peterson, fight for that Bill C-16 thing.
Yeah.
And I go, holy shit.
It's like 10 years ago.
If it's worth watching the congressional hearing in Canada, where he's explaining you can't compel speech. You can't tell somebody you have to say my pronouns or you go to jail. He's like, this is going to get out of fucking control. Everything he said came true.
Yeah. I had him on at the beginning of that stuff. And I remember people saying to me, like,
what
why
year
do you
was
care
that?
about what happens?
That was a
these
really long time
obscure
ago.
Moments that happen in these universities. And I had Brett Weinstein on after the Evergreen College thing. Same kind of thing.
2016? Yeah, it was
And
almost 10 years ago. That's what I thought.
I was saying, like, you don't know, these people are going to graduate. Do you understand what this is the future?
Yeah.
Like, these attitudes that are these kids are being indoctrinated into, these mindsets, they're going to expand, and they're going to be involved in the workplace, and they're going to be involved in politics and culture. Like, this mind virus is going to go everywhere, and you got to say what it is. You got to call it out when you see it. That this is kind of crazy, and obviously,
I think that there's a lot of examples of like what he's really talking about. Like, I think a better way to explain it is like a mining canary problem. Is that if this can happen here, it can also happen in other places, and so you want to make sure that it doesn't happen at all. Because like a lot of people make appeals to triviality, like, oh, well, why do you care about this? It doesn't really matter. Well, if it doesn't really matter, then why are you trying to push it? The only time that people try to make you feel stupid for caring about something is whenever they are in a position of authority. It's whenever they are in a position of power. That's what happens.
all these years later. I mean, this was like 2016, I guess.
Yeah.
So here we are,
Well, he's part of the reason.
So it's like, yeah, like it doesn't matter to you because you're getting what you want. Of course it doesn't matter, right?
I pursued this, Jordan, because he's like, you have to tell the truth. That's it. Tell the truth. Or tell the truth, or at least don't lie. You know, it's like you can't bloody compel my speech,
That's pretty good.
Clean your damn room, it's like finger a cat. Rescue your father from the bell. It's like, it's like, You know, and
How'd
so
you develop that one?
one-
That's a good one.
You know why?
That's a good
Because I
one.
was in a
Spent
little
2 years in
emasculated
COVID.
little he/him
Yeah.
living in New York, and I would sit in my room and watch his lectures with my fucking
Yeah.
head would explode. I go, holy, this is all the shit that I think and feel, but I haven't been able to articulate.
He's a brilliant guy.
And my life changed forever. Once I heard him say that, tell the truth, at least don't lie, and my life has changed.
Yeah, I think that this kind of stuff does happen. I think that it happens with everybody, and I think that there are also instances where, like, there's always going to be racism, like, because I think people are just racist. That's what they do, right? That's how they're programmed. So I think that's the way it goes. I mean, it's the same thing with, like, that Disney thing. I mean, I grew up as a minority in, like, the place that I grew up in, and, like, I would hear racism, but, like, it's just usually, like, it was not really... Like, there's a very big difference between, like, you know, teen guys, like, being like, oh, yeah, we're going to call each other these, like, racial slurs as, like, a form of, like friendship, right? That's the way guys are, or at least, like, a lot of my friends were. And, like, there's a big difference between that and also, like, actually doing it at, like, a structural level, right? Yeah, very true. Yeah, definitely. There's jokes and actual racism. Yeah, there is. And I think there's a lot of people also... I think that a lot of this is perpetuated by people that have a really strong sense of internal guilt. And I think that what they do is they try to overcorrect because of that internal guilt, and they want to be seen as virtuous. I think almost all of the cases of why this stuff happens is actually, not all of them, but I think a good proportion of them, I don't want to say all, but a very good proportion of them are actually not because of anything other than that person wanting to feel like they're a good person. That's it. That's the only reason why they're doing it. So yeah. It's literally virtue signaling? Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Humans will always be racist until we meet an alien, then we'll come together and hate them. You're absolutely right. And, you know, whenever there weren't, you know, a lot of minorities in America, or as many, you know, you had white people that are like, oh, well, these are the Catholics, and these are the Italians, and these are the, you know, Protestants. And we'll always find a reason to kill each other, right? We always will do this. It's going to happen forever. So, like, if you put, you know, like 100 white people in a room, then, you know, if there's no other minorities, everybody's white there, they'll figure out something. They'll figure out a reason for it. It's not like, oh, well, it's just if nobody's the same color, it's going to be it. What if the aliens are hot? Well, that would be perfect, right? Women versus men. Yeah, there you go. Like prison. Yeah, exactly. It's always what's going to happen. Yeah, that's built in our genetic code. I think there's an ancient Arab proverb. My dad used to always tell me, it said, me against my brother, me and my brother against my cousin, and me and my brother and my cousin against the world. And I think that is a very, very true thing to the human psychology. It's extremely very true. People will always find a reason to complain and get mad at somebody else for one reason or another. So yeah. Do you think it's problematic that there are words you can't even say anymore, even in an academic sense? Words should not have that much power that we can. I don't know. I mean, like, back in the day, like, we I remember we would read Huckleberry Finn, and the teacher was always calling on a white person to say it. And I remember they would get to it. And they'd be like, is it okay if I say this? And they're like, yeah, it's fine. They would just fucking say it. Oh dear, because like I remember it was like me and, you know, Dylan, that guy, like the bald guy comes over, show us your dick, Dylan. We went to high school together, and like we looked at each other like, it's coming. Full send it, yeah. Man, I remember that real well. Those were some good days. Bro, my teacher did that to me. Yeah, exactly. Bro, it's kind of pathetic to say people have always been racist, so let's just tolerate that. Don't you have any higher standard for society? I do. I think that you should hold people to a higher standard, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't expect the lower standard. The reason why you create the standard is because people are of that lower standard. You create the higher standard in response to the lower baseline standard. That's the whole logic behind it. So yeah, I think that's the whole point. I think that in general, if you hold people to high expectations, they'll meet them. And I think that if you don't hold people to high expectations, they'll also meet them. Yeah, a perfect example that in his life, Benjamin Franklin wrote about how Germans weren't white. Everybody does this. Yeah, people are always going to find out a way to do this. Yeah, zero tolerance policies. People are going to be racist, whatever. Does racism start with discrimination? I don't know. I mean, it starts with a lot of things, right? I mean, I don't know. The problem is that not everyone's held to the same expectations. Yeah, and that's the issue, right? Is like if you have that problem, that's huge, because then that rots everything. Like it's like a poison idea.